All right, some of our family too just want to say a few things. How about you? You ready?
You want to say anything?
You want to say anything? Candy Reed Chapin?
You're okay? Okay.
That's Phil's youngest, by the way, right there. Candy Reed Chapin. Hi, Kennedy. We love you. Cal Brook? You want to do that now? You want to? I like it.
I had to write it down because I thought I was going to forget. I was really worried about this too, by the way. So, my papi always had a song in his heart. Even in his last moments, you could see him keeping tempo and playing the air piano. I always knew that when I would see him, I could always expect him, my Callie Brooke, and have I told you today that I love you. I'm the first grandchild on both sides of my family, and my papi wrote a song for all of us. But ever since I was a little girl, I've known my song. I was looking through some old home videos one day, and I found a 2-year-old me singing in the bathtub. And I remember showing this video to him a while back, and I saw how happy it made him. And so I thought it only fitting to share it with all of you today. Thank you all for being here. It means a lot to me that you're celebrating my papi with us. So, hit it.
Hey, Callie. Sing My Callie Brooke.
My Callie Brooke, no letting again,
Could have her
my Callie Brooke,
I love you.
I love you.
Yeah.
So, I came into this family 25 years ago. It's crazy. In this church, walked down that aisle on the arm of my daddy over there, wherever he is. And that day, I got another daddy. And literally, I think from day one, he says, "You're my number one daughter." I always consider that ranking, not position of one that came first, but Dad was always, I mean, if you know Ormal, he loved to communicate. I mean, he would text you, he would call you. When you were in the room, he was in the room. He wasn't somewhere else thinking something, like he was present in the moment. And that's just one thing I loved about Dad, is that he would text me, sometimes it was 4:30 in the morning. "I've been praying for you already." So now I feel like instead of getting a text from Dad saying "I'm praying for you," I just kind of have this mental picture of him walking up to Jesus and grabbing a hold of his arm and saying, "Hey, they really need you down there," you know. So I feel like we've got a great representation of our family.
Okay. Well, most of you know that I came in later in life. Yeah. And so, being that I came in later in life, pass it on down. Okay. You guys okay with us just kind of winging it? Sorry. So I was the latest addition, so Lonnie's the oldest and I'm the youngest, although I am the oldest by a year and a half. But I met my dad in 1983, I think it was. And he didn't know me and I didn't know him. And if you knew anything about my dad, he always looked for the ones that didn't quite fit in, the stragglers off to the side. I had about 14 years old, I would assume, and maybe 15. And I was taken out of the state of California and placed in the state of Oregon, and hadn't been in the state 2 weeks, and I was sent to a camp, a Christian religious camp, and I didn't know what that was all about. And I didn't fit in with anybody. I just remember staring and watching people. But there was this drinking fountain that was there on the property at Camp Davidson, and there was a little wooden lodgepole fence. And I remember I was just sitting on that fence. Everybody else was grouped up and having a ball, but I was just staying by myself. And Dad walked over to me, just kind of started some small talk, and then he said, "Hey, do you play basketball?" And not long after that, we walked down and we shot hoops. He didn't know that maybe a year and a half later that I would become a part of his family on weekends and then eventually full time. I was a youth pastor in the state of Oregon for about maybe 18 months, and I took the youth leaders up to Camp D to do a cleanup day. And the camp was in the process of being taken over, and so they did a lot of remodeling, and they cut down the drinking fountain. The camp directors and my youth leaders went and got it, and they said, "Since your dad reached out to you and impacted your life, that same DNA is in you, and you've reached out to us and impacted our life." So they presented me with the very drinking fountain from Camp D, which is pretty cool. Secondly, there's when I moved in with Mom and Dad on weekends, I would walk by early in the morning to the shower, and I would hear my dad praying, "God help me love him, because I can't do it in my own strength. Teach me how to show him your love." And I was hard, and I was angry, and I had a lot of baggage. And there were times when my dad would stop me and he'd grab me by the shoulders and he would say, "Phil, I'm not going to give up on you because everyone else has given up on you." He said, "Phil, I'm not going to hit you because everyone else has hit you." And then he looked at me, and if you've ever seen my dad give you that little wink, he gave that wink and he said, "I'm going to love you, son, because no one's ever loved you. Have I told you today that I love you?" And then, of course, I was tough and standing like a board, and he'd hug me, and all I wanted to do was reach around him, but I just couldn't do it. So in Dad's last few days, we had a very special moment. And Dad gave me his last name when I was 23 years old. He wouldn't let me have it right off the bat because he wanted to make sure I wouldn't ruin it. Hope I didn't ruin it, Dad. I had to prove it, but for 18 years I've been in the fire service. I'm not called Phil. I'm called Chapin. My jacket hangs on the truck between calls, and the last name on the back of my jacket says Chapin. The other night, Dad had a special moment with all of us boys and Mom. And I had my hat on from the fire department, and the hat said Chapin on it. And I said, "Dad, can you see this hat?" He said, "Yeah." I said, "That's your name. They don't call me Phil, they call me Chapin. That's your name, that's your legacy. You're living through me and impacting these men in the fire service." And that's what it's about. My dad was in the art of changing people's lives, and I'm so proud to be able to carry his name.
Story to follow there, Phil. So, I just wanted to say, Chad and I have had the honor of being in Oregon 3 times in the last 6.5 weeks, so that we could be here with Mom and with our Poppy. We've been able to bring the kids, and we had such an amazing week the first week of August, just creating memories with them. And every morning, because of this dude, I was up at like 4:30 or 5. But so was Poppy, and we would have coffee every single morning that we've been here. And even this last week, while he was sleeping and resting and fighting, I would take my coffee, I would pass Story off to Mom, and I would go and sit in there for 30 minutes, and I would just talk to him. Sometimes he would talk back, and he would say, "How's my special daughter today? How are you, honey?" And we would have a conversation. But what I wanted to tell you guys was, I have 2 little guys right here, 3-year-old Shepherd, and Story is 7 months old, and all I've ever heard this kid's life, and now this one, as we've been looking through all of the pictures, oh my goodness, they are little Ormels. They look just like Ormel. I'm like, are you kidding me? I did not do all that work to have 2 babies that don't look like me. But alas, they don't. And that's okay. And so the last couple days just looking through all of these pictures, and this guy looks just like his poppy, and this guy looks just like his poppy, and I could not be prouder to have 2 little Ormels walking on this earth. And what an amazing man to live up to and to be like and to speak like. And I cannot wait to watch and to mold these boys into little Ormels.
Yeah, Story, our youngest, who's 7 months old, his middle name is James, after my dad. So, yeah, and then Salem is our oldest. She's 8. And then Shepard, who is extremely comfortable right now, he is 3. This is my little drummer boy. Well, when I was thinking about last night, kind of what I was going to say today, I don't know why, I just wanted to tell this one hunting story of me and my dad. And so my dad always, every year, he'd go hunting, and it was go elk hunting, and it was this really extreme hunt. And so my dad and all the guys, the rule was they would never take their kids until they were seniors in high school. So it was my senior year, and I got to go. And I just always remembered as a boy growing up, every time my dad would come back from this 2-week hunt, he always had this thick scruff on his face. And as a boy, I just remember thinking like, oh, that's so cool, he's a mountain man. Yeah. But you know, with him being a pastor, he's always clean shaved and always looking really nice. So it's opening morning, all right, and my dad and I were walking across this canyon, and at the very bottom, it was pitch dark outside, and we were wanting to get towards the end before the sun came up. So all of a sudden, it sounded like a herd of elephants at the bottom of this canyon. So my dad said, let's just wait right here and just see what these elk do. So all of a sudden, the elk start coming up this canyon towards us. And we waited for probably a good 45 minutes. By this time, the sun is just starting to come up. And right in front of us, about 50 feet away, was this lead cow. So this elk starts walking towards us, right down this trail, walking right at us. And the cow doesn't even see us. And my dad and I are standing right next to each other. And then behind her was another one, and then another one. And we counted 40 cows before I saw horns in my scope. And so when I pulled the trigger, I sat him down, and it was the most amazing thing. My dad and I were hugging and like high-fiving. It's freezing cold outside, so we wait, give 40 minutes, and then we go up to this bull elk. And so we set our packs down, we got our rifles up against the tree, and so my dad said, this is your first elk, you're gonna clean it, and I'll tell you how to do it. So, but I was all in. I was like, yeah, all right, I'm in. So as I get my knife, all of a sudden, this elk raises his head and gets up on its front legs and is trying to get over this tree. And over this tree, that had fallen, is this really steep canyon. And my dad knew if this bull elk gets over this log, there's no way we're gonna be able to get this elk. So what does my dad do? He grabs its hind legs and plants his legs up against this log, and he's holding this elk from going over his head. And I'm standing there like, what do I do? And Dad goes, shoot him again! But that will never, it still seems like that was yesterday. It was the most incredible thing I've ever seen and ever been a part of in my entire life. But my dad was a really, really good dad. He was an awesome father. And, now that I have 3 kids of my own, the coolest thing is that I don't have to question, how am I supposed to do this? My dad didn't just tell me how to do it. He lived it. That was his life. And, I cannot, it blows my mind. I love being a dad to my kids. And I know a lot of that came from, I know my dad loved being my dad. And one of the greatest things too for me, when I found out that he didn't have much longer to live, the well opened up and crying like crazy, And then I realized, this peace came over me, and I realized that peace was, yeah, I'm going to cry a lot because I miss my dad. But the coolest thing is that my dad is just, he doesn't have any regrets with me, and I don't have any regrets with my dad. Like, we were able to clear anything, clear the air. So there's a lot of peace that came with that. So all I have to say is, for any of you that might have a feud or whatever with your dad, or with somebody you love, or somebody in your family, there's a lot of peace there to make it right. And when you forgive, there's so much weight that comes off your shoulders. And a lot of times you might think that, if you're mad at this person, you're going to make their life miserable. That's not the case. It makes your own life miserable. So when you forgive, you're able to breathe again and live life to its fullest. But I love my dad so much. We're going to miss him, but I'm excited to carry on that legacy to my 3 kids.
Yeah, our dad, he loved his boys. He loved playing sports with us too. We would go in the backyard, and he would show us, and he would show me, he'd be like, all right, playing football. He'd show me how to do like pass patterns and stuff like that. And so for hours on end, I'd be running pass patterns, and he'd be throwing me the ball. So we get to Camp Davidson one year. I'm 7th grade, and a bunch of these seniors come in for the first day at Camp Davidson. How many of you been to Camp Davidson before, or grew up going to camps? Yeah. And how many of you heard my dad preach too? Yeah, like all of you. So we get a bunch of new kids in from Portland. We get a bunch of seniors in there, and they're down on the field, that big field over by the basketball courts, and they're playing some football. And I'm down there, and I'm wanting to play with them, of course, but they're not wanting to play with this little punk, blonde-headed kid, and sees them kind of shunning me away. And I'm just kind of standing off the side. I'm like, yeah, all right, whatever. I'm just wanting to play, man. I just want to play. Dad comes down. And he's like, all right, hey, you guys come in here for a second. He's like, I bet you all that this little kid right here, that's about 4 foot nothing and weighs about 95 pounds, if that, I bet you that he can score 2 touchdowns on you right now. I bet you he can at least get a pass and then score 2 touchdowns. You guys up for that? They're like, oh, yeah, let's go. So he gets me in his little huddle, which he always did, had the football, and he would draw out the pass pattern on the football of where the threads were. So he's like, Lonnie, all right, this first pass is what I want you to do. I want you to go down about 10 yards and do your little look-in, okay? I want you to do this little look-in pattern, and I'm going to hit you with the ball. I want you to just catch it, let him touch you. It's all good. They'll tag you right there. So I'm like, all right. So sure enough, I go down there, I make a move, shoot it across, Dad throws me this pass, I catch the ball, the guy tags me, he's like, not bad. Kid seems pretty quick. Come back. Dad gets in that little huddle again, he's like, all right, Lonnie, we're going to do the same play. But I'm going to pump fake on that, and then I want you just to bolt as fast as you can. And I was fast as a little guy. I was really fast, so I'm like, all right, Dad, you sure? He's like, I'm going to drop this dime right on you, right over their heads. And we're going to show these seniors that a 7th grade kid can blow them out the water. You ready? I'm like, I'm so in. This is going to be amazing. So sure enough, I head out there. I do this look in. He pump fakes. That dude bites on that pump fake just like Brett Favre, and I take off. And he drops that dime right over the top. And it's like the perfect pass, which he always did. Always threw the perfect pass right over my shoulder. I catch it and I run in for a touchdown. And I come back and we're high-fiving, and those guys were like, no, you can't do that again. My dad's like, all right, here we go. He turns around the huddle again, has the ball. He's like, all right, Lonnie, this is what I want you to do. I want you to go the opposite way. I'm going to pump fake you the ball again, and you're just going to go on the opposite side. So I'm like, all right. Sure enough, I run down there. I take this hard left. He pump fakes, and that kid bites again, and I take off, and he drops another dime right over my shoulder, and I catch the ball. I come back, and these seniors are standing there watching this, and Dad and I are high-fiving, but Dad also sees the sadness and the distraught of this kid that I just blew. A senior in high school, I just blew the 7th grade kid blew right by him and scored 2 touchdowns on him when he didn't think so. Dad walks up to this kid and he grabs him and puts his arm around him and he goes, "You know what? You're a really great player, man. You were really good. Although you got beat by a 7th grader, you're a really great player." And I was watching this, and my dad kissed this dude on the cheek. And he's like, "You have so much potential. You have no idea what you have. You're going to find that potential this week in Canton. I want you to know that." That was my dad. Even though his kid's going to go out there and he's going to beat you on the football field, he's still going to love you anyway, and he's going to make sure that you know that you can be blessed if you give everything you have to who God is in your life. If you leave everything on the field, God will bless you far beyond you could ever contain, beyond anything that you could ever hope for. We're just punk preacher's kids, man, from Central Oregon. And we've all been blessed way beyond we thought we possibly ever could. But this is the reason why we've been successful. As Dad instilled in us, he's like, you go hard after who God is, and God will bless you far beyond you could ever contain. You boys are just punk kids from Bend, man. But you know what? God will bless you if you love God with everything in you, and if you give Him everything in you, then He will bless you far beyond you could ever contain. Same thing in this room. Tonight. You give God everything you are. And you think this is the ceiling, you think this is about as far as it goes? Think again. Think again. There's a lot more for every one of you in this room. I don't care how old you are. That was about, May. I have a radio show here in Bend on 107.7, and this thing came over on my prep. My prep comes in from New York City. So every morning when Meg and I go through everything in the morning getting ready for our show. In May, this thing came over from New York City that said that, I don't know if you heard this, but on September 23rd, it was going to be the end of the world. You remember? Y'all heard this? Some weird joker, some knucklehead again saying, it's either going to be the coming of the Lord or there's a meteor that's going to slam into this earth on September 23rd. So I see this in May, all right? So Dad dies on September 23rd, and something hit me in the head that I remember. I'm like, man, I remember something. And so I go back and I start looking through my prep again a couple days ago. And I find this, and it was all based around Revelation 12. Let me pull this up real quick. And this is just funny to me. So take this however you will. But this is so great. Revelation 12:1, it came out of this. It says, "Then I witnessed in heaven an event of great significance. I saw a woman clothed with the sun, with the moon beneath her feet, and a crown of 12 stars on her head." Okay? So, get back up here. So, with this Revelation 12, coincides with the High Holy Day on the Jewish calendar, which is also called the Feast of Trumpets. All right? Now, the Feast of Trumpets is the first of the fall feast, and its timing is traditionally based on the visibility of the new moon, which in 2017, this year, it was expected to begin on the evening of September 21st, okay? And the end was the evening of September 23rd. And that's when the sign was to be fulfilled. Now, the Feast of Trumpets in Jewish tradition is believed to be a day when the dead will be resurrected and judgment will begin. The complete astronomical alignment occurs on September 23rd, 2017 over Jerusalem. My dad passed September 23rd, the evening of September 23rd, when they were talking about these 12 stars aligning out of Revelation 12. The end of the world, whether it was the second coming, whoever they thought, whatever was supposed to happen, if that was the case, we're all screwed. And Dad was the only one to go. On September 23rd, 2017.